dual-wheeled PMR-30s. Right on, man, right on. Kel-Tec PMR-30s. Let's talk some PMR-30, guys. We've got two in front of you. We've got my burnt bronze version that I bought about a year ago last summer, and a friend of mine who bought his around November, around Thanksgiving 2015. This gun has literally only had 260 rounds through it. I know because I put them through it. He gave the gun to me and said, hey, will you have time to actually shoot the gun and break it in for me? Because he just didn't have any time to do it. And so I thought, what a great opportunity to give you guys a review when I have two different samplings of the gun to actually review for you. So went out and did 260 rounds through this one. My gun has probably had somewhere in the vicinity of about 700 rounds, give or take about 50. So you know, I've really ringed it out, and I'm definitely ready to give you guys a review. So this is going to kind of be a little bit different, just kind of laid back. I got the camera on a different angle. We're just going to kind of go through and talk about it. I got my notes here, my pros and cons, my different notes on it. So let's go through and break it into the like and dislike. I think that's just a really good way to go through and talk about the gun. The thing that I love about the PMR-30, okay, my number one thing that I love about it is the fact that it has a 30 round capacity in its magazines. That's just awesome. Phenomenal 30 rounds of 22 Magnum. Just a fantastic amount of firepower in a handgun. There's just really nothing else on the market that does kind of that same thing, and I really like that. And so ever since the inception of the gun, ever since I found out that this gun existed, I wanted to get my hands on one. It took me forever to find one at a decent price. I finally was able to pick this one up at Ready Gunner, the gun store that I really like down there in Provo, Utah. I was able to pick this one up from them, I think for 360 bucks, something like that. So yeah, that was a good price. I was happy about that. Picked it up from them, and yeah. But I've wanted to get my hands on one forever just because of the form and function. 30 rounds of 22 mag in a handgun is just a phenomenal amount of firepower, and that's one of the things I really like about the gun. The other thing that I like about it is its ergonomic. You know, it does have a long grip. Okay, it's long because you know you have to accommodate that longer 22 Magnum bullet cartridge, but yeah, but ergonomically it still feels really good in the hand. In fact, my two oldest kids, my 12-year-old and my 10-year-old, are both able to shoot this gun unaided. Okay, so they can shoot it just fine, and they really like that. My wife likes shooting it. She thinks it's comfortable and it shoots well. One of the things I also like about the gun is the fact that it's really fun to shoot. Really fun to shoot. I mean, it's just a hoot. You get that 22 mag just doesn't burn a lot of powder as it's going through the short barrel, so you got a lot of muzzle blast. And you know, typically it's not a positive thing when you get a lot of muzzle blast. However, when you're shooting a small caliber, it's kind of fun to pretend you're shooting something bigger. And this thing really seems like you're shooting a larger caliber when you're shooting this 22 mag. The muzzle blast and the recoil is both really fun. The recoil is kind of sharp, okay, so it's like a sharp little poppy recoil, okay, but it's not high amplitude. It doesn't really rock you back. It's just more like a quick little pop, and so it's actually fun, and it gives you enough of a feedback in recoil that you feel like you're actually shooting a real gun and not just a 22. So that's pretty nice. I actually like that a lot. Another thing that I really like about the gun, okay, the form and function of it is great, but it's the fact that it's so lightweight. I've got my scale off out of frame here, you can barely see it, but I weighed both of these. This one came in at 15.56 ounces. Okay, so that's less than a pound, and this one came in at 15.73 ounces, and that's with a magazine in, an empty magazine in at the same time. So we're talking under a pound, okay? 30 rounds in the magazine, under a pound, just over 15.5 ounces. That's phenomenal weight. And we'll talk about that when we talk about what I picture these guns being useful for. We'll come back to the lightweight, the lightweightness of it. The other thing that I really like about this gun, speaking of ergonomics, going back a little bit, is the trigger. So I used my Wheeler gauge here, my trigger gauge, and we actually, this was the last measurement that we did on the Coyote one, and that's right under 3 pounds. The depending on where I'm pulling on the trigger, it's between 3.5 and 2.5 pounds. So literally, you're looking at a 3-pound trigger, and that makes it so much easier to shoot. Lightweight guns don't stabilize really easily. Even with your pulse, you'll see a lightweight gun move, and so having a lightweight trigger helps you keep those sights on target easier with a lightweight gun. And so kudos to Kel-Tec for really thinking ahead and putting a lightweight trigger in the system. Going from there, accuracy is really good. Like I said, lightweight guns aren't the easiest things to shoot accurately, but the combination of the sight picture, it's really good. In fact, if we bring it up here, those high-vis sights pick up really well, and they give you a lot of illumination when you're out in the sun, and the sight picture really helps you in being accurate. I found that both of these guns shoot pretty well to point of aim, so they're really pretty well right on from the factory, so that's really nice. But the lightweight trigger and overall low recoil and the sight picture makes for a fairly accurate gun. So it's accurate enough to, for a handgun. I mean, if you do your part, it'll do its part. So that's the most important thing when it comes to accuracy in a pistol. What else? Sight picture again is something that I find to be a positive with the gun. It's really nice and bright. We'll come back to the sights though, because I want to talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, that's kind of overall likes on the gun. I think that it's really nice. I love having the fact that you have a lot of Picatinny rail space up front there. I like the looks of it. It kind of looks like a space blaster. I mean, it looks cool. Kel-Tec does kind of some funky styling sometimes, but I think they did a really good job with the PMR-30. Like it just kind of looks kind of cool, futuristic. So yeah, that's really nice. Speaking of ergonomics though, let's go a little bit more in depth on that. You've got your slide release here. You've got a manual safety that is easy to put on and a little harder to take off. So there's a decent detent. It's a little mushy, but there is a decent detent in it, something that's not going to be, inadvertently actuated. I can sweep it down and kick it up with my knuckle, so you can actually work the safety pretty well there. It does have a European mag release, which I really don't have any issues with. I mean, it's pretty easy, to reload. You just throw it out, throw a new mag in, and you're good to go. So no issues there. The polymer is, it's a harder polymer. I do like their texturing here. I think it does kind of mold, allows the fat of your hand to get into those grooves there and gives you a little bit more purchase. Like I said, guys, the recoil on this is really mild, so I don't think that that's a huge issue with, needing a ton of traction on the gun. I've seen people put like rubber sleeves on there, something like that to give you a little bit more traction. I guess with wet hands it might be something worth doing, but I don't see it being an issue. Now coming to the dislikes, right? The dislikes is the one of the reasons I dislike this gun is the fact that ammunition is so pricey. I mean, if you look at this right here, these are these are the Spear Gold Dots, okay? So Spear Gold Dots running right around $17 a box, and that's at Gunny's in Provo or in Orem. From them. So granted, that's a more premium 22 Magnum, so that's a more premium bullet, and you got your nickel-plated casings, things like that. But still, that's very pricey. You've got Maxi Mags. These run usually right around the $14 mark per 50. And then like these ones I get for a little cheaper. These Hornady ones, sometimes I can find them for like 13 bucks, a box of 50, something like that. But if you price that out, I mean, I can get 9mm for 10 bucks a box of 50. Okay, so this is more expensive to shoot than a 9mm, and not only that, but it's harder to find the ammunition for. 22 mag is sometimes even harder to find than 22 long rifle, and that's something that I've really had issues with. I love my PMR-30. Okay, this is another thing I really like about the PMR-30 is the fact that it pairs with the PMR-30. The PMR-30 is one of my favorite guns that I own. It's a fantastic rifle. I have had just super good luck with reliability on it. It functions well. I mean, this one's had about 1,000 rounds through it, and I've had just a handful of malfunctions. Just a fantastic rifle, and I love the fact that they interchange magazines. So I can take the magazine out of here, put it right into there, and I really like that. It just kind of, for those of you guys that are looking for like a complete system, something that interchanges, that's a fantastic fantastic pairing. They're hard to find. Okay, I understand that. They are hard to find, and that's one of the things that a little downside to this gun is that they are sometimes hard to come across. And when you do, they can tend to be a bit more expensive. On the used market, if you're looking for a private sale on something like this, they're running around the $500 mark. They're really pricey. I picked this up for Ready Gunner for $360. So I mean that's about what you're looking at. I've seen them even as high during the big huge crunch after Sandy Hook. I've seen these things going in the $700-800 range. So yeah, they're pricey for what they are, and a lot of that is just the rarity of Kel-Tec guns in general. Another thing that's a minor downside to me is the fact that it does feel a little bit cheap, and that's partly due to the fact that it's so lightweight. But if you guys can hear, there's a little bit of flimsiness to the gun, and it does seem a little hollow. So it doesn't, like, it's not something you're going to pick up and think, man, this is a really well made gun. It's not something you're going to necessarily pick up and think this is a toy and it's crap, but it's definitely, the build quality is, I think, okay. It's on par. It just feels a little bit cheap to me. So it's one of those things where it's a minor downside. Another thing that really I dislike about this gun is the front sight. After about 200 rounds into owning this gun, my front sight came off at the range, and I was able to find it. The screws were still in there, the set screws in it. I brought it home, and like a week later was trying to put the sight back on, and I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but I'm actually missing one of the set screws. As I was putting it in there, it popped off and rolled somewhere, and I still haven't been able to find it. It's probably been vacuumed up long ago. But yeah, so the fact that the front sight fell off during shooting, to me is like unacceptable. I just don't think that that's a good enough design to be yeah, it's bad. Like, the front sight fell off. I actually emailed Kel-Tec to see if I could get them to send me out a replacement set screw. I did not receive a reply to that. Granted, I haven't called them, so I really haven't put in my due diligence in actually getting a hold of them. But my email, there was no reply to. And on their website, they sell a front sight assembly. I think it's like $25, something like that. But I don't want to spend $25 in buying a whole new front sight just because I need a set screw. I'm going to look around, maybe go to my hardware store and see if I can actually get a matching set screw. But nonetheless, the fact that it fell off, it means that it's a poorly designed sight, and I just really, really dislike that. You can see that between the Coyote version and mine, which are like 6 months old from each other, it's like a 6-month difference. You can see that the front sight is a tad bit different on. Well, it's quite a bit different on the Coyote colored gun, but they still use the set screw setup. So I don't know if they've improved the setup with this one. They probably have, but yeah. So there is the difference in the two versions there. Okay, that all being said, those downsides, those dislikes, the biggest dislike, okay, the biggest thing that I don't like about the PMR-30 is the fact that it's just been unreliable. My gun has just a smattering of malfunctions all throughout the rounds that I've shot through the gun. There's some ammunitions that just don't run well at all. These gold dots do not run well in either of these guns. The gold dot, let me show you an actual round. This is an actual gold dot, okay? And you can see that it has a really wide, very, very narrow taper, very little taper on the bullet itself, and it has a large opening in the front. Makes it a great hollow point for actual terminal ballistics. But when it comes to feeding in the PMR, it goes up and then kind of hangs a left and jams right on the edge of the chamber, either left or right. So I've seen it on both. It will feed occasionally. It will feed, but I'd say every 5 rounds jams up with the gold dots in both of these guns. So the gold dots just do not run well at all. However, the CCI Maxi Mags, okay? I put 100 rounds of the Maxi Mags through this gun with zero malfunctions. Zero malfunctions. It ran flawlessly. And there are times when I can get through, you know, 2, maybe even 3 mags with my PMR-30 and have zero malfunctions with the CCI Maxi Mags. So the Maxi Mags I've found to be the most reliable 22 mag to run through my PMR-30. So these are the ones I really like to stock up on if I can find them. These Hornady 30 grain VMAX bullets, okay, that's this one right here. This gun, the Coyote gun, ran flawlessly with 50 rounds of this, so no problems whatsoever. But my gun, however, it's underpowered. So this lightweight bullet is fast, it leaves the gun quickly, and so there's very little buildup of pressure back in the barrel, and so it doesn't generate a lot of momentum on the slide. So I have multiple problems where the slide will actually not kick back far enough to pick up another round. And I've also found that the slide doesn't have enough momentum to come forward and actually feed. So the slide will come back just enough to pick up the round, and then it'll push it forward, but it won't have enough to get it actually inside of the chamber. So I have multiple problems with the 30 grain VMAXs, and even in my PMR or my CMR-30, the CMR-30 has the same problem with these 30 grain VMAXs. It just seems underpowered, and I can actually feel the variances between the shots. Like I can feel some that I know just did not have enough power to kick that action back hard enough to actually pick up a round and chamber it. So both of my guns have problems with this, but the Coyote one had no problems with the 30 grain VMAXs, which is surprising. This gun definitely ran better. Of the 260 rounds that have been through it, 30 rounds of that was the 30 grain plus V or plus P round that CCI puts out, and it jammed on the second round with that, but then ran the rest of the mag flawlessly, and that was the very first mag I put through it. And then we ran 100 rounds of the Maxi Mags through it. We ran 50 rounds of the Gold Dot through it, and it just had the same issues that my PMR-30 had with the Gold Dots. And then it ran, so it ran more reliably than mine by far. So I might just not give this one back, but but yeah, like it's definitely a more reliable PMR-30 than mine was. Mine was just fraught with multiple malfunctions in the beginning and still has lots of malfunctions now. So it's just definitely not, mine's definitely just not reliable. And literally the manufacturing times are probably only 6 months difference between these two pistols. Couple other little things about the gun. The takedown procedure for it is you have to remove this pin right here. You take it down, take the pin out, you pull the trigger, and the slide will actually come off at that point. Then you remove the slide rails underneath and the buffer, bring the barrel out, and it removes very, very similar to other guns. Cleaning procedure is fairly straightforward. Reassembly is just putting it all back together and putting the pin back in. I don't really find the takedown procedure to be too overly laborious. However, it's something that pin takes a little doing to get out, and so doing it in the field might be a little harder to do. So it's just something to keep in mind. But again, like it's not really that big a deal. Cleaning though, the 22 mag is a fairly dirty cartridge, and so regular cleaning I think is something I definitely would recommend, and keeping the gun really well lubed also makes a difference on it as well. But overall takedown isn't really not that big a deal. Also, one of the things I wanted to mention about the sight is that this rear fiber optic thing, as I'm shooting it, works its way out. As you can see right there, I can kind of just pull it right out. I think that's just a bad design. It's a really poor design. I know it's easy to replace them, because you can just snip them and throw them back in, but it shouldn't be that bad. It should not be working its way out as you're actually shooting the gun. So I have to periodically push that fiber optic piece back in. A little dab of glue or something like that, or a little dab of Loctite or something might keep it from working its way out. But it's just something that's kind of annoying, and like it's almost like those sights were like an afterthought. Like let's just throw some fiber optic rails in there or whatever, and we're good to go. But yeah, so the rear sights aren't that great on it. Okay, so let's go from talking there to our kind of our philosophy, for lack of better terms. What do I see these guns being used for? Well, I think the gun really is going to, my role that I would really place this gun in to the most would be a backpacking gun. You know, really, guys, at less than a pound with 30 rounds of ammunition in the magazine, what a fantastic backpacking pistol. I mean, very, very lightweight. You're hardly going to know it's there. You know, and the 22 mag is really good enough for most small game hunting. So, you know, if you're going to be backpacking and want to shoot a squirrel, you know, pop a coyote, you know, those size games, you know, there's plenty of power with that 22 mag to do that. Another thing, you know, and so speaking of backpacking, that hunting is also a really another good role for it. The other thing that's cool about that on the hunting side is you can take these screws out and actually mount optics to the top of the slide here, to the top rail. So you can put like a little mini red dot or something like that on it, and that would make it even more of a hunting style handgun. And I think that's one of the things that I see this gun really excelling at. But backpacking is probably my number one pick for this gun. Another role that I see this gun kind of doing well at would be the survival role. Really the short-term survival. Okay, so we're talking like, you know, throwing this in a, you know, an emergency kit, something like that would be a decent choice. Mainly because, you know, the magazines hold 30 rounds. The ammunition is relatively lightweight. The gun is lightweight. So adding to a kit, this would be a fantastic choice for that. Long-term survival or poop hits a fan scenario, I don't recommend this gun. Mainly because, again, that 22 mag is a more of a rare cartridge. It's something that's hard to come by. You can't reload it. It's very expensive to stock. The availability of it right now, just in the stores, is hard. Can you imagine doing that in a long-term role? So I really don't see this as being a great poop hits a fan gun at all. But what I see, so where I see this gun also doing well at is just a fun recreational pistol. It's something I can see every family out there enjoying. You know, my two oldest kids can shoot this unaided. They have no problems. It's not really intimidating. It's very loud, but it's not a super intimidating gun to shoot. My wife likes it. I like it. I think it's one of the funnest guns to shoot. When it runs well, it's just awesome. And so I think that is something that's one of the number one picks for this, is just a recreational gun. You know, people are going to ask me, do you think this would be a great gun for home defense or for like self-defense? I really don't. Not because of the caliber. I think the 22 mag, especially out of this little longer barrel, you know, I think that's a decent and acceptable you know, cartridge for self-defense, especially something like high-end like this CCI Gold Dot or the Critical Defense, which is a 45 grain bullet. Both of those are going to perform well, and they're going to do well in a defensive role. You know, out of a carbine, you're looking at almost 9mm level power, and in this you're looking at a full, you know, like full 22 mag power. You know, you're looking at the 1200 to 1300 foot, or 1200 to 1300 feet per second range out of the pistol, and that's more than enough to be a defensive role, in my opinion. Some people will disagree, but I feel that that's pretty straightforward. However, when it comes to unreliability, I totally discount these as a home defense or a defensive gun, mainly just because of that unreliability, not because of the cartridge itself. Which is a shame, because having 30 rounds in the magazine makes it just really, really nice. It'd be really nice to be able to use that as a home defense gun. You know, if you guys have one of these and it just runs flawlessly, let's say you put 500 rounds of the CCI mini mags through it and you had no boggles with it, then by all means use it as a home defense gun. But I couldn't use these as that for sure. All in all, guys, do I recommend the PMR-30? You know, I really don't recommend it. If you guys are using it for the roles that I'm talking about, like just a range gun, a fun family recreational gun, then by all means get it. If you want to just hunt small games with it, you know, you can probably do that. But you know, the problem is it's just super unreliable. You know, the fact of the matter is that when you have the company sending you out do's and don'ts when it comes to ammunition, lets you know that the company knows this. Okay, the company knows that it's not going to be, it's like, for the most reliable functioning, knowing that it just doesn't function well enough. You know, that's a huge red flag. In this case, a yellow flag. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, I just have a hard time recommending it just because of its unreliability. Now, when it works, it's just a super fun gun. It just is awesome. It's so much fun to shoot. But again, it's fraught with frustration just because, again, that unreliability problem. You know, just kind of real quick, you know, it comes with a trigger lock, and it comes with a nice hard case, 2 magazines with it. So, you know, that's kind of what you get included. Oh, you also get a really nice manual. Actually, they do a good job. Kel-Tec has done a really good job on their manuals lately. Also, I recommend, guys, if you own these or any other Kel-Tec products, you should really go to the Kel-Tec owners group. I think that's the forum's name, KTOG or whatever it is. You guys can search it. They have just tons of information on there. As forums go, they're really pretty good, and so I do recommend the Kel-Tec owners forum. So there's a little shout out to them. But guys, yeah, like, do I recommend it? You know, it just kind of depends on what you want to do. I mean, it's a crapshoot, mostly crap when it comes to reliability, and it's hard for me to say because I really like the gun. I mean, I really like it, and I really want it to do well because it's just cool. I mean, it looks cool. 30 rounds of magazine is like, there's nothing that can beat that, really, you know. But it just doesn't live up to it, and so it's disappointing to me overall. But anyway, guys, you know, there you go. Just a little review on the Kel-Tec PMR-30. If you guys have any questions or comments, if you guys own one, roll in the comment section down below. Let us know what your guys' experience with it is. But yeah, for sure. Don't forget to follow me, guys, on Instagram. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, you really should. At DocTacDad on Instagram. Hit me up there. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, okay, for more videos just like this in the future and reviews like this. I always appreciate it. And if you do like what you see, hit that thumbs up button, guys. You know, because it does take time and it takes effort and takes money to do these reviews, and thumbing up those videos really helps me out, and I really appreciate it. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks very, very much for watching, and we'll catch you guys next video. See ya.